All right, so I guess we'll get started. Is everybody awake? I know it's Thursday morning. Yeah, I always say it's almost Friday. What really irritates people I work with is when I say that Monday morning. Almost it's a relative term. There is no finite to it. It's almost Friday, right? Anyway, hope you guys have had fun. I don't have a KISS outfit, and I'm too short. But anyway, so thanks for coming today. So, quick introduction. We're going to be talking about how to move into manufacturing with MasterControl. You've probably heard a lot this week about expanding quality outside the quality department. Quality is a process, not a group of people. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm having a problem though. I keep looking at this and I can't decide if manufacturing the black hole that's pulling quality in, or quality is the black hole where the documents from manufacturing are coming. One of the others, someone's the black hole, right? So we never lose documents in manufacturing. I spent 20 years in manufacturing and product development. I never lost a document ever that I cared about. So we're going to start by showing how old quality is. Aristotle, he was around, dinosaur, triceratops, hung around with them. Quality is not an act, it is a habit. Manufacturing believes this. Believe it or not, we just think that when you utter the word quality, that's a group of people over here, and we actually just do quality. They know what they're talking about, but we know how to do it better every time. We have I'm building our solution out, EBR. We have one of our many people we consult with for the solution back in the back, Joy back there. She's a consultant as well as I am on the side. She came from the quality side. I came from the manufacturing side. It's fun to discuss features. So in manufacturing, this is how we view ourselves, right? We're the proud champions. We're the cream of the crop, right? We're doing everything we can for the company. Unfortunately, this is what it looks like in most cases. And you laugh, but there's a ton of pictures on the internet of this. Okay, and so, in quality, we talk about making quality products in manufacturing. We talk about taking good steps. We're Six Sigma. How many in here know what Six Sigma is? How many people have it in their organization? Yeah, we had it too. We had 3 different kinds, right? Manufacturing had one, quality, right? So, harmonization, understanding each other, bringing to the same playing field. The other sad thing in manufacturing is we get bored with this, and that forklift starts looking good. This is a legitimate sign that I had to post in my warehouse. If you'll notice, it actually is a workers' compensation fund sign. Now, of course, I didn't post it until I won the tournament. That's the critical part, right? And you're probably all thinking, well, how do you win a forklift jousting competition? It's not Photoshop. That's actually a carpet forklift when it picks up the big carpet rolls. Anyway, so the reason I bring this up is, I was sitting there in an OSHA audit. How many people know what OSHA is? Awesome. How many of your safety and compliance documents are inside of MasterControl? Good, a couple of you. Okay. So I was sitting there across from the CEO at the time, who was my boss as director of manufacturing. And OSHA's sitting there, and I'm sitting there trying to explain to OSHA how he's wrong. And I got the look. I'm like, what do you mean? Later I found out what that look meant. He's got a badge and a gun. Don't disagree with him. Sound familiar? I think I was in an FDA audit last week, and I actually used that look. I'm sitting there with a counterpart of mine that has hired me to help him, solve some 483 issues, and he starts arguing at the FDA, and I'm like, no. He's got a badge and maybe a gun. So, we have very similar situations from manufacturing into the quality arena. We use the same tools, but yet we use them, we think, differently. But at the end of the day, We all solve the same problems. We have people that come in and inspect us. We have FDA inspectors. We have OSHA inspectors. We have compliance, and how many here deal with chemicals in manufacturing? OSHA visit you ever? Occasionally they come in. Actually more often than the FDA. And ironically, more companies get shut down for OSHA violations than FDA. So we have to gauge what is quality and what is not. Another interesting element, this is an actual photo. You probably can't see it there, so I'll point it out. I was at a company helping them because I get bored on the weekend, so I actually still repair machinery. That's what I do when I get bored. A lot of people go golfing and have other activities. I go help my old companies because it's fun and I like smashing my fingers and getting cuts and bruises. It's fun for me. So you'll notice there's a gigantic crack in this. This did not affect product efficacy. It did not affect the product in any way, shape, or form. How many people have repair and maintenance documentation inside of MasterControl? A couple of you, good. Now, in manufacturing, you probably have the repair, like I do them. That worked. It's not quite a zip tie. It's actually made of metal, and there's a screw on it. That got them back up and running. That was important. Why? Well, we have a policy at this company that says if you're down for more than, how many minutes? Downtime. Do you guys know when manufacturing goes down, there's a protocol for time related to notification. So if we didn't get back up and running within 5 minutes, I had to make a phone call when I ran the company. This poor guy had to make a phone call too. I was actually the 5th phone call in this chain. I was there at 1 a.m. 3 weeks ago. Nobody did figure out how to get this machine running. I grabbed a metal zip tie. It was an expensive zip tie that I billed them for. So we get into these, that never hit their documentation for quality system. Now, they have a bunch of documentation around this that they maintain and keep. The reason I bring this up is inside of manufacturing, we have all kinds of needs for documentation. We have countless things that we add. Yeah, we have a time clock over here where we record your time and so on and so forth, but unless we have a lot of money to spend on an MES system or a time tracking system, we have a little timesheet that they record how often they're on jobs in discrete manufacturing. Manufacturing produces paperwork, constant paperwork, and the irony is how many manufacturing people, managers, supervisors, directors are trying to reduce paperwork. Isn't that what we did with MasterControl? Right? So it's interesting because I actually purchased several MES systems in my career. I've implemented several BOM, PLM type solutions to reduce documentation in manufacturing outside of quality. It was awesome because quality would launch a documentation solution and then we'd go launch one and tell them that we weren't going to use theirs. It was fantastic. So, and then we had to spend a whole bunch of money to build a piece of middleware so the two could talk, and then you know how much IT loved me after that. They were my best friend. So then we just started buying cloud solutions so I didn't have to tell them. We got, there's ways around things in this world. But that's not good. That's not quality. That's not allowing for analytics going up the chain. Every director in manufacturing wants to know how often his machines go down. That's not tracked in most instances. They want to know where their security logs are. How many of you guys have security issues throughout your building where only certain people are allowed? Good. Is that tracked in MasterControl? Ah, interesting. So this goes down to, they track it. There's all this information floating around in manufacturing. Because at the end of the day, manufacturing, we think, produces product, but unfortunately, manufacturing produces paper as a primary source of output. Alex Butler, you've heard him talk, he was an employee of mine back at one of these companies. He wasn't kidding when he said he used to have a stack of DHRs on his desk at the end of the day. It was about 2 feet high every day. It was crazy. We produced paperwork in manufacturing. And so what do we do about that? Well, we try and come up with solutions. So how many of you are on 11.3 or newer? Cool. Have you guys used the new form creation tool? Yeah. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple to use. In fact, the forms that we built for manufacturing that were outside of the quality system, we did in Excel, we did them in Word, we did them in PowerPoint sometimes. It was easier. Well, now that that tool is there, we can have manufacturing put some of those forms in, and then they gain the value of reporting on them, tracking, trending, spending the time to understand the things they need. We had full-time administrators working for our manufacturing directors. Their entire job was inputting data into spreadsheets from manual paper coming off the manufacturing floor to build a report for the manufacturing director so he knew who to fire. I'm just kidding, I wasn't the reason. But it could have been, right? I mean, that's the whole point of documentation is the output. And when the output is so manual, and she had the same issues going through any type of quality documentation. Was that a 2 or a 3? Was that 20 minutes or 30? She had the same issues that we have in the quality documents. Very similar situation. So why doesn't manufacturing use MasterControl? Aren't they banging on your doors to use it? Let me rephrase that question a little bit differently. How many of you guys use training for manufacturing? Great. How many times somebody has to go do training, they have to be retrained? Right. Well, if they're in MasterControl more often, that'll benefit that. If they're using MasterControl more frequently. But there's certain things that we can do to help manufacturing utilize the system a little bit easier. Number one, they're afraid of the routes, approvals, the constant oversight. Well, we can build them. We can help them build the files, and then we can set them up with an info card template of their own. We can set them up with a numbering system. We can set them up with organizers. We can help as sysadmins create an environment and maybe walk them through how to use the system and some of the easy touch points that they can have. Of course, once we do numbering series and that, then we can help them build their routes. Most of what human fear is the fear of the unknown. That's why it's Halloween month, right? Why do haunted houses exist? I mean, what's the most famous way to scare somebody? I used to do it to my siblings all the time, and now I do it to my daughters just for fun. In fact, my daughter, just the other day, she's old enough to have a boyfriend, she thinks. I don't. So she's out in her car in the driveway, and I forgot to get the mail. So I'm like, it's like 11 o'clock. I didn't know she wasn't home. So I go out the front door because I didn't want to open the garage because I had the temperature in the garage up to like 90 degrees. I was baking some parts that I was painting. And so I go out the front door and I see her in her car. Totally doesn't see me. So what do? I sneak up on the side of the car, right? Smack that window as hard as I can. It was awesome. I think there's a dent in the roof the other way. It's this, she didn't know what was coming, right? The biggest fears is the unknown. If we can help walk manufacturing through, it's not, it's easy. Here's your form template, here's how you build it. And so I actually had Sean. You guys, how many of you have met Sean Liston, the EBR solutions consultant? Phenomenal. Came from the industry. He helped me build this form. This is actually a safety procedure review form. So this is something where in a company, in manufacturing, we have to go evaluate the safety of equipment. You say, well, okay, that's pretty cool. Well, it's not. I actually had a machine many years ago from Europe. Fantastic machine. It broke. Nobody could fix it. It was a big problem. We ended up elevating to the point of flying somebody out from Europe. That's cheap. Let me tell you, the director of manufacturing loved that bill. Especially when I told him the guy came in, spent 5 minutes, turned around and left without fixing the machine. Why did he do that? Because my operator at the time had disabled the safeties on the machine. The technician wouldn't touch it. No liability from the parent company. My warranty was voided. So why do companies do safety checks on equipment? Because Operators cut corners because guess what we're yelling at them all day for? Faster, more product, lower cost. Well, if I disable the safety, and by the way, I never disabled safeties. Maybe a couple. So this is a form. It's a multi-tier form. This is actually something that I've actually shown now to a client of mine that's like, oh, that's pretty cool. What solution is this? I didn't tell him it was a QMS solution. I told him it was MasterControl. We solved the document problem in manufacturing. Okay? That's what this is. Because guess what he wants the most? He wants to track. He wants to understand what he needs to tell his bosses, why product didn't ship, what's going on with it. And of course, being able to manage all that data. Okay? Moving into manufacturing is easy. They already need it. They already want it. How do we do it? We have to show them that it can solve their needs and solve their problems. Now, of course, one of the greatest paper production coming out of manufacturing is a batch record, right? So I love quotes. So I'm going to start off with a quote from one of my heroes, one of the most important people, I think, in the world. And he's, I've seen all his movies. He's fantastic. And I think he got it a little wrong, so I'm going to alter it just slightly. So, we say that all important products start with a black screen. Right? Okay, maybe not a real person, but he's still an awesome person. So, we're going to talk about EBR. Now, the fun part about this is when MasterControl hired me, during the interview process, they said, hey, Terrence, do you know anything about EBR? I'm like, no. What's that acronym? I live in acronyms. What is that? I had no idea. So we just moved on. About 4 months later, my boss, Brian Curran, and Oliver Wolf, you guys know him, were discussing this new product on the wall. And I happened to go to that meeting. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Are we going to start building a DHR system? And Brian looked at me and goes, no, this is EBR. I said, no, what you're describing is what manufacturing does. I says, I've built and purchased several of those systems. I've built custom solutions on Oracle and Agile and other things. I'm like, yeah, I know what that is. I've built that several times. And Brian's like, really? I'm like, 2 weeks later, I was on the project. So that's the challenge, right? Manufacturing, we all have different terms. In pharma, it's easy because they tell by regulations states you must call it a patch record. The rest of us, I've seen all kinds of things. We worked in DHLRs and LHRs. We had NPRs, production records. We had travelers, and of course the batch record. We gotta love acronyms, naming conventions, right? And so this is what we're building. We are building a tool that captures the data during manufacturing and makes that data compliant, easy, reportable, trackable, right? We're building it so that you can involve parties outside of your company if you're a CMO. We're building it so that you can involve your QC inspections and so on. So what we're going to get into is what this product is. Now, how many of you have training module installed? Awesome. And how many have documents installed? Okay. That's kind of cool. We're training, a document expires and a training just gets flagged, right? Well, imagine if you've got an operator on the floor that goes to work on a certain section of your record, and there's a document associated to that section, and his training is not up to date. We just say, you can't do this, right? How many of you guys or teams below you deal with batch records and then the closure of? A few of you? Okay. How often do you check the training records? Yeah? Do you check every single training record when they come back in? I like you. Yeah, we did too when the FDA was there. It's hard. It's hard to go back. Imagine if that just happened. Well, the beauty of building a production recording system on top of a QMS is we already know that. We already have the document. We We already know you have it on a training record. If you use the document, we can just check it. Makes it simple, makes it easy. I paid over $200,000 to build a piece of middleware to bridge the gap between our documents and our training system. This is part of our solution. Easily, identifiably, simple. And of course, outside of training, one of my favorite things is entry limits. One of the plants that I've run is a machine shop. How many of you are in a machining type world, have contractors? Anybody? Okay, so there's something in the machining world called a tool. It's used to turn something down to what I want it to be. Everything is sharp forever, right? Well, what's the famous Ginsu knife guy? That's what he wants you to believe. But it's not true, right? You put a tool in a machine, it starts turning down. Well, if you have a specification, the operator is measuring until he reaches that specification and then changes the tool. We lose parts because we always catch it after the fact unless the operator is smart enough. Well, imagine if we not only had that limit capability, but we could give you trending reporting on it. We can show you when something's going to fail. Hey, your trend looks like this. You're changing a tool. Your downtime lines up right here. Production is now predictable. That's an amazing concept in such a small little package. The other thing about specifications is, of course, when you close a batch record, legibility is amazing. I think everybody went to calligraphy school and learned how to write like a doctor. I personally, just for fun, would loop my 3s to look like an 8, just so I could talk to the really cute quality administrator that would come out. And I actually did that. So legibility is a hard thing when you're closing something. And it's even more fun when the FDA inspector or the international or BSI or one of the international inspection bodies is at your office going, wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that, doctors worked here. And if you've seen my signature, you will actually believe me. So entry limits. And so we not only have one specification that you can put in here, we have several. And you can choose what happens. Because if something bad happens in today's world, we launch a deviation. We do something outside of that. So when we launch those deviations, they're disparate now. They're in another system. Manufacturing doesn't care. My favorite thing is we have this SOP. It said, if you go outside specification, stop the machine, go grab a technician and make sure. I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. Right? Well, now we can. How many of you have process module installed and running? Fantastic. Wouldn't that be cool if you could track the deviation not only to the batch record, but specifically to the step in one click? Be able to say, oh, this was deviated from, and I can now go right to that deviation. Imagine sitting in an audit. An auditor says, hey, show me that deviation. Okay, here you go. Oh yeah, it was closed before we did anything. We followed the protocol, right? Because we're all in an enclosed system where all that information is at our fingertips inside of the batch record system. Legibility we touched on. John Hancock, I love him. He's like my favorite signature in the world. I had like 400 of them. And me and quality would sit down every month, and I would get yelled at for my employees' legibility. And I would yell at quality for not releasing product faster. And that's why my guys had to move faster. So too bad. There's a constant loop, a constant battle for legibility. In an electronic system, we know who they are. We're in a validated system. We know the date, we know the time. This just disappears. One of the greatest tools. This is actually why manufacturing goes after an electronic system. This is the number one reason. We have visited 72 facilities in the last 2 years going over this product. The number one complaint from every one of those facilities is legibility. Going back to find that person, waiting until their shift came back around again. Oh wait, they just went on vacation. Well, your product's going to sit on the dock for 2 weeks. And who gets in trouble when the product's sitting on the dock? Is it manufacturing? Now we're done. Right? Who gets yelled at when product's sitting? Quality. That just goes away with legibility. We know who did it, we know when they did it. There is no issues. You do not have to go back out to an operator and say, are you sure you did this at 4:30 in the morning because you were on second shift? And then they say, oh yeah, I switched so-and-so. Oh, well, you weren't trained on this, so now you're in real trouble. Excuse me. All right, now, I've been in 6 FDA audits in the last 6 months. Batch record, DHR, has gotten a 483 in almost every single one of them. My favorite is when I've been sitting in an FDA audit and somebody has an MES system in place. And the FDA says, show me your batch record for this product, whether it's on an injection molding machine or whatever. And they go grab the data output from that machine. But we have an MES system. Here's all the data. And the inspector looks up at him and goes, that's fantastic. Why don't you show me the batch record? You have 5 minutes before I shut your doors. We actually produce an industry acceptable. FDA has reviewed this output. This PDF has been built from hundreds of clients' batch records to look and feel like an actual batch record. And that means if you're a CMO, you actually have a physical batch record you can send out to your client and go, okay, here you go. Human readable, easy to understand, flows in the normal process of a production. And the best part about it is it's completely 100% configurable as to how you guys collect the data. One of the unique advantages about our system, it's actually under patent pending, is the ability for you guys to create your own master batch records, master DHRs, master production records. You can go in and assign instructions. You can break it into sections, operations. It's an amazing tool, and at the end output is something that goes into MasterControl in the documents module. You can route it for approvals. You can put a guest user on to have your clients approve it inside of MasterControl. The executed batch records also get output into MasterControl, searchable, reportable on the document itself, not just all the data inside the data collection system. And then right first time. How many of you have heard this metric? Okay, good. Very common metric in manufacturing. It's actually our swear word of quality. You guys just maybe don't know it. So it's right first time. And we're not talking about the product. We're talking about the documentation again. Manufacturing produces too much documentation. What our primary focus is? Right first time. How do we do that? It's almost impossible. How many of you guys that deal in batch records have gotten a batch record that was 100% perfect one time? Anybody? I've never seen one. An electronic system that we've built, it's 100% of the time. We have limits. We have dependencies. You can't start this step before this one's done. You can't put in that value. That's wrong. Yeah, that launches a deviation. Well, you can put this in, but it's a little nerve-wracking. Better notify somebody, right? Right first time goes away. That is the second largest complaint from all the clients we visit, is right first time documentation. So, change control. I alluded a little bit to the builder already. How many of you guys have an MES system installed or a floor shop system? Any of you guys? They're fun to use. I need to change this, I pay them. I need a new batch record, I pay them. It's a constant back and forth with the companies because they have to modify it for you. One of the things we have in here, the builder that I've talked about, initiates change control. We take the batch records, and if there's a change, we put it into collaboration. You can review it. We let you run it on a pilot. We let you run it in an engineering draft mode so that you can perform your business without stopping manufacturing. Change control is in the power of your hands with our tool. This is what is under patent because there is not a system out there that does it. This is an amazing tool that came from a whole group of people that have decided that we want to make it easy to solve these problems. Because one of the systems I bought, I mean, how many of you guys are familiar with Oracle, small company? I've used them every now and then. Yeah, I had the privilege of using Oracle at my last company and installing Agile. Oracle's Agile software for PLM. It was fantastic. And then we purchased Oracle's MES system. It was about $650,000 for the system. Not too terrible for an MES system. The quote was $6.1 million to install it, to configure it, to get it running. After $8 million, we abandoned it. We canned it. And that wasn't the first company's story. This is my company's story. After I did this, I heard about all the other ones. These systems are cumbersome to install, cumbersome to have change control, and cumbersome to make new batch records. I encourage you guys, if you want to see this, to go to the test drive lab where you can actually walk through the builder and see it functioning. Not all the way yet, remember it's still in development, but we'd love to get your feedback on it. It's a fantastic tool. So multi-user, this is something that we built with the manufacturing personnel in mind. It's not too often that I went out to the manufacturing floor and I had 3 people filling out a form. That's pretty standard. Well, we have to be able to allow manufacturing to do that same functionality. We have all kinds of data that is being collected from all types of location. One of the things that is the coolest thing that I think we put into this tool is what we have in multi-user interaction. Once again, if you go to the test lab, they actually will show this to you in live time functioning. It's a pretty nifty thing. You can have a whole bunch of people interacting in the same space, in the same form, in the same field, and the system adapts and makes it possible. It's a phenomenal tool. We have the witness and verification. This is actually one of my favorite because when I was building it with these guys, I realized how hard this is. Because witness and verification sound very, very similar. I mean, we have actually Ben Rosquist back here in the back. He's our PO. And he came up to me and he's like, so what's the difference? I said, well, in manufacturing, it's very simple. Oh, I need a witness. I already did it. I better go get so-and-so's signature. Oh, I need a verifier. I've already done it. I better go, you know. In the documentation world, a witness is on trust. Did that person actually watch that person do it? Did that person physically see? We've set up a little small manufacturing line upstairs at MasterControl so I can teach these guys some of the interactions. And so I showed them a torque wrench. Can you verify a torqued bolt or a torqued lid? It is actually physically impossible. There is no way to test a torqued value. Because once you've torqued it, the only way you can check it is you actually torque it more. So there's no way. So it has to be a witness. And so this is how I went through and did these with these guys to try and educate them. So in our system, we have both a witness and a verification. And they're stacked appropriately. You can't have somebody sign off on a verify before a witness, so on and so forth, right? So we tried to build it to where your end users are held accountable to perform things in the right fashion, to perform things in the right order. And once again, I never did that. Witness was like golden. I had somebody standing there at least 1% of the time. So, production visibility. This is something that's an interesting concept. Every client we go into, we start talking about all this data that we're collecting, all this information. And inevitably, about 2/3 of the way through the demo, 2/3 of the way through the conversation, they go, can I do this with the data? Because you're collecting all this. And then they start going and going and going. And it's amazing, and some of my favorites, I'm not going to give you all of them, but some of my favorites are, wait a second, so you're telling me, and this was a company back east, I can determine a bad employee. Well, yeah, that's not where I would have went, because all employees are good employees. Maybe they need more. I tried to take the high road, but I totally agree with it. So you look at it, you're like, wait a second. This person worked with these people on this lot, and this lot, and this lot. And every time they're on that team, I get more corrections. Every time they're on that team, it takes longer. Or, wow, when I put this supervisor on this team who's doing the verifications, it doesn't matter what team I put this supervisor on, they perform better. Guess who went next promotion, right? Yes, that information is in the system. Unfortunately, that's not in V1, But that information is in the system where we can start to glean out manufacturing production information. This is a huge win over the assistant typing in all the data that was handwritten down that we know they never lied to us because their jobs aren't on the line. My job was always on the line because I had to take their information and report it to my boss. And my boss said, if you're not producing COGS, you're of no value to me. And I went, wow, okay. So we do everything we can. All right, so those are the key elements of this tool. Now, of course, you're probably all, I didn't show you any of it. Well, there's a reason for that. It's huge. This tool has a ton of information. I couldn't do it justice with a few screenshots. I would encourage you, if you want to see it, Sean, the engineers over in the lab, go walk through it. Take 5 minutes and let them walk you through it. You can ask your questions. We're looking for more information. We're still in running production to get this thing done. Now, of course, what we're all after in quality, so now that I'm done talking about manufacturing, I did run development for 7 years, and I had to deal with quality all the time. And I joke about it, but Amber was my quality director, and she was phenomenal. I loved her to death. She taught me so much. I gained a huge understanding of quality through those 7 years. And ironically, she took my role when I moved on. So we stayed in touch. But the most important thing is the results. It's like, what do we as a quality team get out of this? One of the things that I've heard an FDA inspector say many times is review by exception. In manufacturing, we call it the 3 W's, what went wrong. That's what's important. Too often, we're spending our time trying to get things right. Like going out, oh, let's get this signature right, let's get this date right, let's try and we're not worrying about what went wrong on the batch. That's actually more important. Continuous improvement comes from identifying the largest issue and addressing it. Well, if we're constantly trying to focus on right first time, that completely invalidates Six Sigma. If the basis of it is destroyed, because we are focusing completely on how to get something right instead of identifying what went wrong and fixing it. So what we're going to build, and notice the words I use, what we are going to build, this is not in the tool yet. In fact, you guys can help drive this if you want. This is a dashboard for a lot that is in progress. When we go to release something, we can now show you all kinds of information. How many corrections happened? Show me a list of deviations. Show me what went wrong. Show me all the tolerances. There's an amazing group of data that we can present to say, how do you guys want to see? What do you guys want to see in your company? To be able to say, yeah, that lot ran as it planned. We wanted to accept that lot. The other thing we can do is outliers. We can identify, wait a second, we've had 47 lots run that were all within this range. Why was this lot different? The essence of quality improvement. Figuring out what went wrong and identifying it. We can actually do what Sean and I, when we travel, call real quality. Because right now, what these people that close these batch records do, and those of you that have that, they're continually trying to get it right. The paperwork, that's the goal. Get the paperwork right, so when the auditor's there, we don't get in trouble for bad paperwork. That's not building quality into the process. That's reacting. 3 of the 6 audits I've been in this year with the FDA, they have said directly to the client, you should really consider taking your batch record or your DHR electronic. Even the FDA knows the system is flawed and they want a better solution. So, with that being said, the tool is phenomenal. And this is everybody's question, which Brian kind of beat me to it in the session previously. But I'm going to expand upon it a little bit. This is a big project. This is an awesome project. And we are looking for partners to help us get this thing running the right direction. Based on a company's risk tolerance is actually what defines the win. If your company's good and wants to be a part of the beta, fantastic, let's get going today. If you're like, well, let's make sure it's up and running pretty decent, And we want to be one of the first adopters. We want to be one of the first ones on the boat. We have a group of people signed up and a group for that. So based on when you want to start, we can help you adapt this solution into your environment based on your risk aversion. We have Adam Zabrowski back in the lab. His entire job is to manage these groups of people. Now, of course, with the beta and pre-sales and all these different things, there's all kinds of benefits that come out of it, obviously, financial, product-based benefits. You can talk through all of those. But that's the when. We're ready to start testing this with clients. We're ready to start moving forward. When will it be done? It's a forecast, as Brian says. It's going to be based on some of our clients. We can't build the whole thing, even though I really want to. Like really bad, I want to build the whole thing and launch it. We can't. We have to start somewhere. So early adopters, beta clients, obviously get their features in first. That's one of the benefits of being there, right? And over time, over the next year or two, this product will mature into something that is adaptable by many. So, with that being said, other than the survey, which I hope you guys don't want to fill out, any questions or comments or anything you guys want to learn? There's a couple of forklifts out back if anybody wants to challenge me. So, sir.
So we have 125 production facilities.
Okay.
How does EBR manage multiple locations? That's something that I asked that at the test drive, and I still not gotten a clear answer on that.
Correct. So, and that's actually something, like I said, a lot of our betas or CMOs, they're multiple sites. And so that is actually an implementation question that we have not traveled all the way down yet. There's been some ideas thrown around. MasterControl has its sites, features, and some other things. We do not have an answer for that yet, but that is on the books as we have to answer that. So, great question. So, I can hook you up with
Still no answer.
Yes, still no answer, but ideally we'll use the existing functionality for sites management, but how we do it, because recipe management is the big answer. So if you know much about recipe management, it's based, so for V1, we're still trying to answer that, but if you're a pharma or recipe management, when that tool comes out, that is built into that tool.
See, our recipes are the same between locations, just the approvals for each of those locations
is different, yes, exactly, and the roles are different for those, yes. So yeah, that has not been answered yet. That is a fantastic question. Any other questions? Maybe one I can answer? No, I'm just kidding. Any other questions? No? It must be almost Friday. So, anyway, you guys have been great. Thank you. I encourage you to go to the test drive lab if you want to see this amazing tool. Thank you.